Today I'm going to talk about one of the most powerful compassion practices in all of Tibetan Buddhism. It's called sending and taking practice, or sending and receiving practice, and it's very good for cultivating a kind heart as well as for dealing with ego clinging. Essentially, the practice is about generating compassion and love for other beings, and also assuming their suffering, taking on their suffering and their difficulties. But before we get to the actual practice, let's talk about why you'd want to cultivate a kind heart in the first place. Why generate compassion? And there's sort of two sides to this. The first side is that generating compassion has an awful lot of benefits. So compassionate people tend to be happier because they're less focused and caught up in their own worries. And also, of course, it benefits the people that we're compassionate to. If we help people more, they're likely to be happier. And those are both good reasons. But the other side of generating compassion, the other reason for doing it, is that generating compassion challenges the ego. From a Buddhist point of view, what we need to do ultimately in life, what makes our life meaningful, is overcoming suffering. And the root of suffering, from a Buddhist point of view, is ego, or ego clinging, selfishness in the broadest sense, being overly concerned about ourselves. And this practice is very good for dealing with both of those things. So, sending and taking practice can help you generate compassion, which makes you feel better and makes others feel better. And it can also help you challenge ego clinging and help you get over the problem of being too focused on yourself. So, how do we do the actual practice? First, I'm going to give a brief explanation of it, and then we're going to do the practice and I'll guide you through stage by stage. Essentially, the key visualization in this practice is that we visualize white light emanating from our heart to beings, and that white light represents compassion and love. And then on the in-breath, we imagine black smoke coming out of beings and entering our heart, and then turning into the white light. So it's called sending and receiving because we're sending compassion and care and joy and all the good things that normally we want to reserve to ourselves. So we're sort of offering those to beings. And the taking part of it is we are taking on the suffering of others. We are saying that we will take on all their burdens, all their pain, all their cares, and so on. Now, we have to be very careful with this, because what we're not doing is trying to martyr ourselves or try and make ourselves feel miserable. That's not it at all. What we do is we take in the sufferings of other beings in the form of black smoke, and we take that suffering into our heart. And then our heart transforms that suffering into compassion, which is white light, which we send back out. So we're not filling ourselves with black smoke. We're taking the black smoke in, and then we're transforming it in our heart into the white light of compassion and love, which we send out. So it's very important to understand that we're not just holding this black smoke, holding the suffering in ourselves. Instead, what we're doing is we're transforming it. And our hearts, by which I mean our mind, our basic nature, has the capacity for infinite compassion. So any suffering that our heart receives, it can transform into compassion. We don't need to worry about the kind of specifics of that or the theory behind it, but we all love someone or something, everybody loves even maybe one being. So, people might not love other people, but they might like their pets. Everyone's got some love in them. And we have the capacity to cultivate that love to be infinite. So, very, very important point. We are transforming the suffering into compassion and then sending it out again. So that's basically how the practice works. We start off by imagining this visualization with one being, and then we build it up gradually until we are imagining sending this to all beings. And then eventually, towards the end of the practice, we dissolve everything into white light. So first of all, start with making sure that our posture is good. So try and have as straight a back as you can without being tense. So we're not trying to be soldiers, sort of rigid at attention. We're just straightening our spine as much as we can whilst maintaining some relaxation. You can have your eyes open or shut, and then we just gently and quietly bring our attention to our breathing. And before we begin the practice, just take a moment silently to set our intention. Our intention is to help others by cultivating a kind heart. And if you're a Buddhist practitioner, remember to take refuge in the three jewels, the Buddha, his teachings and his followers. And now just gently bring to mind a being who you know is suffering. Could be someone close to you or not, but someone you know. Someone who you know is having difficulties at the moment. And just gently on the out-breath, imagine white light emanating from your heart and dissolving into that other person's heart. This white light represents compassion, care, all the things that we normally want to reserve for ourselves, and we're just offering them to that person in the form of this white light. And while maintaining that visualization, now imagine that on the in-breath, black smoke is drawn from that person and dissolves into the white light in your heart. Just continue to imagine white light emanating from your heart on the out-breath and dissolving into the person, and black smoke emanating from them on the in-breath and dissolving into your heart. Now imagine other beings who are suffering in the same way as that original person. So if you're imagining someone who had cancer, imagine other beings who have cancer, both those you know and those you don't. And we do the same visualization with them. White light to all those beings on the out-breath. Draw black smoke from all those beings on our in-breath. now imagine even more beings. All beings are in front of you, all people, all animals, all beings. And we do the practice with all of them. White light emanating from our heart on the out-breath to all beings. Black smoke emanating from all beings and dissolving into our heart. And we transform their suffering into compassion, into white light, and send it out again to them. Gradually the black smoke on the in-breath becomes lighter, turns from black to dark grey smoke. White light on the out-breath, dark grey smoke on the in-breath. Now the smoke is even lighter, it's pale. So, white light on the out-breath, pale smoke on the in-breath. And finally, we're breathing out white light to all beings, and breathing in white light from all beings. And when you're ready, gently allow everything to dissolve into white light. The breath is white light. The other beings are white light. You are white light. And now return your attention to your breath. Just notice your breathing. And just take a moment now silently to offer any benefit you've had, any peace of mind you've gained from the practice to all beings. Just mentally share and offer any benefit you've had to all beings everywhere. So that's the practice. We've done a relatively elaborate version with quite a bit of visualization, but you can do this much more simply. It's good always to set your intention at the beginning, and if you are a Buddhist, then you should always take refuge in the Buddha and his teachings and his followers before any practice. And it's also good to do the dedication at the end, so offering any benefit you've had from the practice to all beings. But other than that, the middle part of the practice can just be genuinely wishing to share all the good things you have in life, all the compassion, all the joy with all beings on the out-breath, and having a wish to take on the suffering of all beings yourself on the in-breath. Very, very simple. Wish to share good things with everyone on the out-breath and wish to take on everyone's suffering on the in-breath. You don't need to do any visualization at all. And if you are doing a visualization, if you are doing the more elaborate version, take as much or as little time as you want on each stage. It's entirely up to you. Do whatever is comfortable. Make sure that you arrange the practice, that you time the practice so that you engage with it. Because it's very important not to get bored, otherwise your mind will wander and the practice won't be effective. So feel free to be flexible with this practice. It's very flexible. You can do it anytime, anywhere. So if you like this video, please like and subscribe using the buttons below, and I hope to see you next time. Thank you very much.